Right now, someone is lying to you. Not today, maybe not this week, but it's coming. And when it does, something in your brain will fire before you've consciously registered a single word. A micro twitch in the eyes, a half-second delay before the answer, a tone that sits just slightly off. You'll feel it before you can name it. That radar didn't come from language classes or a psychology degree. It is 300,000 years old. For most of human history, the ability to detect deception wasn't a social skill. It was a survival technology. And the species that ran that software before us ran it hard, with smaller brains, no written language, and no courts, no contracts, no police. Just each other. The question isn't whether Neanderthals could detect a lie. The question is whether they had to, and what that pressure did to the architecture of every mind that came after theirs. Neanderthals lived in groups. That much is settled. The evidence comes from burial sites in Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, where Ralph Selecki of Columbia University excavated a cluster of intentional burials dating back 60,000 years. Bodies arranged, some accompanied by pollen concentrations suggesting flowers. You don't bury your dead if you don't have a concept of the individual. You don't have a concept of the individual if you don't track other people. And you don't track other people without modeling their minds. That last step is called theory of mind. The cognitive capacity to understand that another being has beliefs, desires, and intentions that are separate from your own. Robin Dunbar, a professor of evolutionary psychology at the University of Oxford, has spent decades mapping the relationship between brain size, group size, and social cognition. His research suggests Neanderthals, based on their cranial volumes, could sustain social groups of roughly 120 to 145 individuals, nearly identical to the Dunbar number for modern humans. Groups that size do not function without social monitoring. Somebody always knows who didn't pull their weight at the hunt. So here is the first thing to hold on to. Neanderthals almost certainly had the neurological substrate for tracking social debt. The capacity to notice when someone's behavior didn't match their past behavior. The capacity, in other words, to notice when something was off. But did they have the social stakes that make deception worth detecting? This is where the evidence gets sharper than most people expect. In 2010, a team led by João Zilao at the University of Bristol published an analysis of pigment-stained shells found at two Spanish Neanderthal sites, Cueva de los Aviones and Cueva Anton, dating to at least 115,000 years ago. The shells had been perforated and coated with mixtures of yellow, red, and black pigments. These were ornaments, personal ornaments worn on the body. The significance of that fact cannot be overstated. When you decorate your body, you are sending a signal about yourself to other people. You are performing an identity. And performance implies an audience that can be deceived about what the performance means. Anthropologist Francesco D'Arico of the University of Bordeaux has argued for years that the presence of body ornamentation is strong evidence of what he calls identity signaling in Neanderthals, the same cognitive layer that in modern humans underlies status display, alliance formation, and social bluffing. If you can signal, you can misrepresent. So now the real question opens up. If Neanderthals were signaling identity, forming coalitions, tracking social debt across groups of over 100 individuals, what was the evolutionary cost of being fooled? What happened to the Neanderthal who trusted the wrong individual and lost their share of the kill? Who followed a false signal and walked into the wrong territory? They died, or they failed to reproduce. And the ones who didn't get fooled passed on whatever wiring made them harder to fool. This is not a metaphor. This is how selection pressure works over hundreds of thousands of years. What modern humans experience as a gut instinct, that something about this person isn't adding up, is the compressed record of every time one of their ancestors got the read wrong and paid for it. But here is where the story inverts. In 2017, a research team at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, led by Svante Pääbo, confirmed something that changes the entire frame. Neanderthals and modern humans interbred. Repeatedly, across multiple contact events spanning tens of thousands of years. The average person with European or Asian ancestry carries somewhere between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. Some East Asian populations carry slightly more, which means the social cognition that evolved under Neanderthal group living conditions didn't vanish when Neanderthals did. Some of it came with us. It's sitting inside the genome right now, doing exactly what it was shaped to do. Researchers at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center, publishing in Science in 2016, identified specific Neanderthal-derived genetic variants active in modern human brain development. Variants that influence the timing of neurodevelopment in the prefrontal cortex, the region most directly associated with reading other people's intentions. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of social prediction, the exact machinery that fires when the story someone is telling you doesn't quite add up. Your lie detector is, in part, inherited from a species that went extinct 40,000 years ago. There is something quietly unsettling about that. Every time someone's eyes slide slightly, left before they answer. Every time an explanation arrives a half beat too fast. Every time the story changes in small ways that the teller doesn't notice but the listener does. That response is ancient. It was calibrated in caves and across open ground and around fires that dozens of people gathered around, watching each other, because watching each other was what kept you alive. Neanderthals did not have courtrooms or contracts. They had each other's faces. They had 300,000 years of reading them. The capacity they built, the pressure that shaped it, and the neural architecture that survived the contact between their species and ours. All of it is still running. Right now, in the back of your skull, quietly watching the person in front of you. It was never a skill.